So guys, welcome to today's webinar on how to make the most of performance reviews. We are live now. I hope most of the students have joined and others who are running late should be able to join shortly. Till then, we can start off. So welcome again, and I'm Meera Singh Rawat, your career coach. We have Jackie today as my support partner. She'll be moderating the chat for us. Thank you, Jackie, for joining and supporting. Moving on to the next slide. So before we begin, let's get to know each other. It will be lovely if all of you can type your name and the nano degree that you are pursuing, and if possible, your location, so that everyone gets to know each other and can connect later directly. I always encourage all my coaches to visit the Student Hub on Career Hotline chat room every day and leverage from the Q&A that are being asked there, and also connect and network with the students. So please go ahead and type out your details in the chat box. And let's see, where do we have everyone from? I see guys from Baltimore, from London, from Canada. I see Rasha from Egypt. I see Samuel from Mexico. I see Juan from Colombia. I see Zubair from London. And who else do we have? So keep introducing yourself, and students, y'all can pick up the names and the nano degrees from the chat. It'll be good for you guys to connect later. I see Tadi from South Africa. Welcome everyone. I see Harun from USA. All right, so now we will start our webinar while you keep introducing yourself. Now we move on to the next slide. Quick introduction about me. I'm currently located out of India. I have close to 2.5 decades of work experience in senior leadership roles for large multinational firms and their partners with focus on BFSI. I specialize in career strategy, interviewing skills, and job coach. I would request everyone to put themselves on mute. I think, Jackie, you can go ahead and mute students who have forgotten to mute themselves. So that way it will make sure that everyone is able to listen. I'm just checking for those students who are not on mute. All right. Okay. So coming back to my introduction, I'm culturally astute with extensive experience in bringing together global stakeholders. I'm known for mentoring, coaching, and developing high performance teams with diverse capabilities, and I have developed leaders across my tenure in previous organizations. I'm also a certified behavior and personality practitioner specialized in John Wiley tools. So moving on to the next slide. What are our key takeaways today? And what can we expect to gather from this webinar? So what is there in it for me, right? If you're going to give me 1 hour of your time, what is it that you're going to take away with you? This slide tells you what is there in it for all of us. It's self-readable, self-explanatory. We learn the importance of performance reviews. What are the different types of performance reviews? The role of performance review in evaluation of employees, the process, the benefits, and finally the tips. Moving on to the next slide is today's agenda. It's almost kind of a mirror to the takeaways. We are going to discuss all these topics. So we will quickly move on to the actual agenda slide. So let's get everybody engaged. We move on to our next slide, which is a poll. What is more interesting way of getting people to start looking at the presentation and actually contributing? Please go ahead and take the poll. This is anonymous. Let's see what each one of us here today has to say about it. This poll is anonymous, so feel free to share your responses. I'm going to launch the poll now for you guys, all right? So here we go, and I have launched the poll. The question is, have you experienced a performance review or a performance appraisal? So it'll be good to see how many of you have actually done and how many of you are still lucky not to have gone through it. It anyway helps all of us to know where we stand. So we'll just give it another 10 seconds. This was quick. I think almost everybody has responded to it. Just waiting for a few more to add. This is anonymous. Don't shy away. Just put in whatever you have experienced. This is more to understand the statistics. By the way, did you know that performance reviews is not just for people who are already working. It's also for people who are job seekers. And you will learn more about it as we go through the other slides. in this webinar. So if you have not gone through a performance review or an appraisal, please type that in here, because that actually gives us coaches the statistics to build the next webinar subjects. So don't shy away, go ahead and give your answers. I'm going to give it another 5 seconds before we close the poll. All right, I hope everyone has participated. And I'm not sure the ones who don't want to respond, what could be the reason, because it is quite a harmless question. I can see just 1 or 2 of us not yet responded, but I guess in the interest of time, we are going to close the poll, and here we go. Now, are you guys able to see the results? Please type yes in the chat if you are. I'm sharing the results now. Are you able to see the result?
Yes.
Okay, lovely. So we have 53% of the participants who have not yet gone through a performance review, and we have 47 who have gone through a performance review. So it'll be beneficial for both type of participants to actually go through this webinar. So let's get started now. Thank you for your responses. Moving on to our next slide. Here is our first topic. What is a performance review? So, a performance review is a regular review of an employee's job performance and overall contribution to a company. It is a continuous process to secure information necessary for making correct and objective decisions on employees. Also known as an annual review or employee appraisal, a performance review evaluates an employee's achievements and growth or lack thereof. The performance review often includes both the core competencies required by the organization and also the competencies specific to the employee's job. The appraiser, often a supervisor or manager, will provide the employee with constructive, actionable feedback based on the assessment. This in turn provides the employee with the direction needed to improve and develop in their job. Companies use performance appraisals to give employees the big picture feedback on their work and to justify pay increases and bonuses, as well as the termination decisions. They can be conducted at any given time, but tend to be annual, semi-annual, or quarterly. So moving on to the next slide, which is importance of performance reviews. So we have a poll again. So let's see. What do we have this time? All right, so does a performance review matter in career growth? I'm going to launch the poll and feel free to take your pick. It is anonymous. I have launched the poll. So does a performance review matter in career growth? What are the options we have on the screen? Yes, no, maybe. This is anonymous. We cannot see who has typed which answer. All we get is statistics. So it'll be good to know what your views are, because then you will be able to actually see whatever view you had, whether that was correct based on the research that I have done and the slides that I'm presenting. Yes, please go ahead. This was faster. I enjoy a lot of when all the students participate, it's really good. So we have just 1 or 2 of us yet to participate in the poll. I'll just give it another 20 seconds and then we should be closing this. All right. So the results are pretty going on to one side. When I share the results, you yourself will be able to see it. All right. So just 2 more seconds and I'm ending the poll. Okay. And now I'm going to share the results. Please type yes if you're able to see the results. Whopping score of 82%, where students and participants feel that yes, a performance review does matter in career growth. And we have 18% who feel maybe. The good news is there is not a single participant who thinks that a performance review does not matter in career growth. And you're absolutely right. Performance reviews do matter. Yeah. I'm going to stop sharing the poll now and we will move on to our next slide. All right, so what do we have on the next slide? Importance of performance appraisals. Let us take a look at a few compelling performance management statistics and see the direct correlation to employee engagement. You can see the source and you can see the comment. So the link from LinkedIn, we have managers who received feedback on their strengths showed 8.9% greater profitability. The HR Daily Advisor, companies who implement regular employee feedback have turnover rates that are 14.9% lower than for employees who receive no feedback. Globe Newswire says 24% of workers would consider leaving their jobs if they have managers that provide inadequate performance feedback. And LinkedIn again says 69% of employees say they would work harder if they felt their efforts were better recognized. Moving on to the next slide, the statistics continue. Again, LinkedIn had done a survey where they got the result that 92% of respondents agreed with the assertion negative feedback, if delivered appropriately, is effective at improving performance. PR Newswire says 63% of Gen Z said they want to hear timely, constructive performance feedback throughout the year. And 27% of workers strongly agree that the feedback they currently receive helps them to do their work better. And finally, 68% of the employees who receive accurate and consistent feedback feel fulfilled in their jobs. So this should kind of give us an idea through statistics, why is performance review important, how it drives various dimensions of our career. Moving on to the next slide. Now, reading from the slide, the significance of a performance review is twofold. It helps the organization to determine the value and productivity that employees contribute. And it also helps employees to develop in their own roles. Now, performance reviews help too. Here are a few pointers. Measure and reward performance. This is a new no-brainer. All the guys who chose the answer of yes, performance review matters in career growth, you will be able to relate to this particular point. Measure and reward performance, correct? It's a direct correlation. Many organizations have something called spot potential spot awards. That also gets measured. Manage changing roles. Many times when your appraisal happens, when your review happens, a lot of your potential comes out based on what you have performed in the whole year, what additional initiatives you have taken, where you have raised your hand to do something which was out of the box or which was beyond your functional role. So it helps to take a decision on managing changing roles for employee development, improving performance definitely, and giving employees a voice. This is a good forum for employees to be able to give feedback to their managers and to their management. So now, moving on to the next slide, which is slide number 14. Performance reviews are also important for 5 more reasons. First one, reading from the slide, maintain records in order to determine compensation packages, wage structure, salary raises. Second, to identify the strengths and weaknesses of employees, to place right resource on right job. Third, maintain and assess the potential present in a person for further growth and development. Fourth, provide a feedback to employees regarding their performance and related status. And finally, review and retain the promotional and other training programs. Moving on to next slide. Here is the pictorial representation of importance of the performance reviews. If you look at it, I'm going to explain each one of this in clockwise for you to understand this better. So I am just checking if anybody is not on mute. All right. So, all right. Now, the first one, starting clockwise, employee recognition and rewards. What is this? Appraisals provide the opportunity to recognize and reward employees and to ensure they feel valued for the work that they do. By monitoring performance and progress against objectives, employees can assess whether to reward staff with salary increases, promotions, or bonuses. It's also a chance to say thank you and to provide verbal feedback and praise regarding any successes highlighted. Doesn't have to be financial, although money still holds considerable importance, and salaries should be regularly reviewed to ensure they remain competitive and in line with performance. Simple and sincere acknowledgements still go a long way towards maintaining healthy engagement. Second point, new challenges and clear objectives. So, organizations with a great workplace culture are ones where employees feel a real sense of belonging. They understand what the organization is trying to achieve, are inspired by its mission and values, and recognize how their role plays a part in achieving overall success. The discussions which take place during appraisal meetings will help employees to understand how the individual objectives set for them will play a part in the wider business plan. So the strategy unfolds, okay? This helps to give employees a sense of ownership within the collective vision and to empower them to achieve the results needed. It's also a great opportunity to regularly review objectives and to provide ongoing challenges to ensure employees remain motivated by new goals and experiences. The next point, continued progression and development. Now, how does performance review help in continued progression and development? Organizations which provide clear progression opportunities are attractive to new recruits and are more likely to be able to retain talented employees by mapping out a career path for them. Regularly looking at performance will help to identify when employees are ready to take on more responsibility. Setting aside the time to discuss an employee's individual ambitions will also help the organization to spot and develop potential talent and build a strong succession pipeline. In today's digital era, where we have websites like Glassdoor, where anybody can go and give their opinion, good things go, also the not so good things go there. So this is definitely going to help. Performance review definitely help in continued progression and development. Next one, culture of trust and openness. What is this? In today's fast-paced business world, it's more important than ever to maintain a meaningful two-way dialogue with employees to help keep talented people within your organization. One of the key enablers for achieving employee engagement is to ensure that employees have a voice, and performance review meetings can help to fuel discussion and empower staff to share their opinions. They will feel encouraged to influence innovation by feeding ideas upwards, and the relationship which develops from open communication within appraisal system will help employees to feel more able to approach and discuss any ideas outside of these meetings as well. Next point, support and training. Open discussions on performance can help to identify any problems early and provides the opportunity to explore positive solutions. Managers can look at what additional training and support could be provided to enable the employee to achieve results which they would feel proud of. High-performing employees can be supported with further training to help them progress to the next level. Prevention of long-term dissatisfaction. This is an important one. Issues can usually be nipped in the bud before they escalate to the point of someone leaving, if they can be raised through appraisal meetings. It is a great opportunity for an employee to raise any worries or concerns or to discuss any barriers which they feel are holding them back. Taking the time to listen to employees and address any concerns helps to create a happier workforce and will continue to fuel a culture of openness and trust. Now, the last one, supporting staff to deliver an effective appraisal system. For appraisals and performance, communications to work to best effect, managers need to feel effectively equipped to provide regular feedback and ongoing performance management. Investing in training for managers to able to deliver effective performance appraisals with an authentic approach is a worthwhile investment. Maintaining a natural management style will help them to foster the trust and respect needed to build open and transparent relationships, and developing skills such as active listening and performance assessment will help to ensure a constructive appraisal system is in place. So with that, we move on to next slide, which is the actual slide types of performance reviews. So now we know what is performance review, what is its importance. It's time for us to know what are the different types of performance reviews. So there are various methods that are used by managers and employers to evaluate the performance, and they can be put into two categories. So in terms of designing the evaluation technique, each company considers various factors such as size of employees, work schedule, goal of the company, and so on. Whatever method is used, it is important to select the right method for assessing the quality and quantity of work performed by individuals. There are many methods of merit rating, which can be classified into two categories, traditional and modern method. This slide is self-explanatory and lists the types of traditional methods for performance review. So you can see all the 7, 8 types of traditional methods which are adopted for doing a performance review on this particular slide. You can find more information on each of these traditional method types on this link, which I'm going to paste now on chat. Feel free to save this on your systems and explore it after the webinar, because I'm not going to go into the depth of each of the traditional methods. I'm going to go into the next slide, which is modern method, and I'm going to take that one by one. So moving on to the next slide, which is performance appraisal types and the modern methods. Each method of performance appraisal has its strengths and weaknesses, may be suitable for one organization and not suitable for another one. As such, there is no single appraisal method accepted and used by all organizations to measure their employees' performance. All the methods of appraisal devised so far have been classified differently by different authors. This slide lists out the 6 types of modern methods of performance review. So moving on to the next slide, which is poll. It's a poll time again. All those who joined in late and were not able to participate in the earlier polls, here is your chance. And all those who joined in after everyone had introduced themselves, please feel free to type out your name and your nano degree and your country. It will help everyone else to connect with you guys. I'm launching the poll now, and here we go. All right. Which method of performance review is more popular, traditional or modern? Based on your experience, please feel free, and also based on the previous 2 slides, feel free to pick your choice. This is an anonymous poll. Nobody is judging. We don't come to know which student has picked up which answer. All we get is a statistics. So feel free to express what you think is more popular. And it's perfectly all right if you don't have an answer. I wish I had put a third option of saying, I'm not sure. So if I would have put that, I'm sure there would have been a few who would have picked up that. But since we don't have the third option, whichever comes closer to your understanding or your experience, please pick that up. All right. So I'll give it another 20 seconds for 1 minute to get over. 1 minute is a good time for people to just answer a poll. I see quite a few new students who have joined in a little later, which is good. Welcome to those who joined in late. All right. So now I'm going to close this poll and share the results. Please confirm with a yes in the chat if you're able to see the result. So the question was, which method of performance review is more popular, traditional or modern? We kind of have 58% on traditional and 42% on modern. As I said, different organizations adopt different methods. So depending on what exposure we have got in which organizations, every answer is correct. I'm going to stop sharing the polls and we will go on to our next slide, which is on traditional methods. So we are going to deep dive on modern methods. We are going to deep dive into each of the 6 methods on modern methods. All right. So traditional methods of employee engagement have divided opinions in delivering effective results. They focus more on measuring an employee's past performance rather than improving future work, which is why many organizations are adapting their performance appraisal methods to be more accommodating to modern methods. Let's have a brief look into the 6 subtypes of modern methods of performance reviews. So here's a close look. The first one, management by objectives. This performance appraisal method is used to match the overarching organizational goals with objectives of employees effectively while validating objectives using the SMART method to see if the set objective was specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time sensitive. At the end of the review period, which could be quarterly, half-yearly, or annual, employees are judged by their results. Success is rewarded with promotion and a salary hike, whereas failure is dealt with transfer of further training. This process usually lays more stress on tangible goals, and intangible aspects like interpersonal skills, commitment, etc., are often brushed under the rug. This is ideal for measuring the quantitative and qualitative output for senior management. By the way, did you know retail giant like Walmart uses an extensive MBO participatory approach to manage the performance of its top, middle, and first line managers? Moving on to the next slide. The next subtype of modern method is 360-degree feedback. This appraisal method has 5 integral components like self-appraisal, managerial reviews, peer reviews, and subordinates appraisals, and customer or client reviews. I'll quickly take you through with one statement on what are these 5 things in each of this. So 360-degree feedback will include a self-appraisal. Self-appraisal offers employees a chance to look back at their performance and understand their strengths and weaknesses. Managerial reviews. Performance reviews done by the managers are a part of the traditional and basic form of appraisals. These reviews must include individual employee ratings awarded by the supervisors, as well as the evaluation of a team. Peer reviews. As hierarchies move out of the organizational picture, co-workers get a unique perspective on the employee's performance, making them the most relevant evaluator. These reviews help determine an employee's ability to work well within the team, take up initiatives, and be a reliable contributor. However, friendship or animosity between peers may end up distorting the final evaluation results. The fourth contributor to this 360-degree type of performance review is subordinating appraising manager. This in short form is called SAM, subordinates appraising manager. This upward appraisal component of the 360-degree feedback is a delicate and significant step. Reportees tend to have the most unique perspective from a managerial point of view. However, reluctance or fear of retribution can skew appraisal results. The last contributor of 360-degree type of performance review is customer or client reviews. The client component of this phase can include either internal customers, such as users of product within the organization, or external customers who are not part of the company but interact with this specific employee on a regular basis. Customer reviews can evaluate the output of an employee better. However, these external users often do not see the impact of processes or policies on an employee's output. Now, did you know that top private organizations like RBS, Sainsbury's, G4S are using 360-degree multi-rater performance feedback to measure employee performance? Moving on to the next slide, slide number 22, the third subtype of modern method of performance review, which is assessment center method. During the assessment, employees are asked to take part in social simulation exercises like in-basket exercises, informal discussions, fact-finding exercises, decision-making problems, and role play and other exercises that ensure success in a role. All right. So this slide, you can see there are 3 components, which I'm sure all of you are reading. Did you know Microsoft, Philips, and several other organizations use the assessment center practice to identify future leaders in their workforce. Moving on to the next slide. Behaviorally anchored rating scale. The short form of this is BARS, BARS. The first step in BARS creation is generation of critical incidents that depict typical workplace behavior. The next step is editing these critical incidents into a common format and removing any redundancy. After normalization, the critical instances are randomized and assessed for effectiveness. Remaining critical incidents are used to create bars and evaluate employee performance. Moving on to next slide, the fifth one, psychological appraisals. Now, what are these? Qualified psychologists conduct a variety of tests, in-depth interviews, psychological tests, discussions, and more to assess an employee effectively. However, it is a rather slow and complex process, and the quality of results is highly dependent on the psychologist who administers the procedure. Specific scenarios are taken into account while performing psychological appraisals. For instance, the way in which an employee deals with an aggressive customer can be used to appraise his or her persuasion skills, behavioral response, emotional response, and much more. I had covered one webinar in the past on emotional intelligence. So if you go on YouTube and if you try to find out and explore emotional intelligence Udacity, you will get more information about how to develop your emotional intelligence. Now, did you know Ford Motors, ExxonMobil, Procter & Gamble use psychological appraisals to test the personality and performance of their employees? Moving on to the next slide, which is the sixth and the last type of modern method of performance review called human resource accounting method. So, when an employee's performance is evaluated based on cost accounting methods, factors like unit-wise average service value, quality, overhead cost, interpersonal relationships, and more are taken into account. Its high dependency on the cost on benefit analysis and the memory power of the reviewer is the drawback of human resources accounting method. With that, we complete all 6 types of modern methods of performance review. Moving on to our next slide, it's poll time again. For those who missed the previous poll, this is a multi-choice question. So here we go. I have launched the poll. This poll is anonymous. Feel free to pick your choose and choice. What is the question? The question is, what are the benefits of a performance review? So there are 6 answers there. Please feel free to pick up whichever you think appropriately matches the question. So this seems to be, I'm getting great responses, different opinions and views, which is very, very interesting. By the way, the response to this poll will also show what kind of organization people are working or what kind of performance reviews they have experienced and what outcomes they have seen in their performance reviews. This poll is a clear indication of experiences of individual people. So I would encourage people to go ahead and please take this poll, because this gives an insight to each one of us, how there are some people who have experienced it all and how some of us have experienced it in bits and pieces. So I'm going to give it 10 more seconds before I close the poll. All right, and I am closing the poll now. Here we go, and I'll publish the results. There you go. All right, this is a great mix if you notice. 44% of the participants say promotions and transfers. 25 say monitor recruitment and induction. Again, 44% say training and development. 6% say selection validation. And 44% say better rapport between management and employees. Whopping 50% say all of the above. Okay, So yes, the answer is all of the above, depending on the maturity of the organization. As we mentioned, different organizations are on a different maturity curve. So if it's a very matured organization, all of this will be the benefits that an employee will derive. And if they are on the lesser curve, then there could be some of these or a few of these. All right. So we thank you for sharing your responses. We move on to our next slide, which is, let's see now what are the benefits actually. Okay. So there are 10 benefits of performance review. Here is a list of the benefits. The statistics, so the statistics of a performance review can be used to monitor the success of the organization's recruitment and induction practices. So that's the first benefit. The second benefit, planning for providing training and development. Through the appraisal procedure, the supervisors can comprehend the strengths and weaknesses of their subordinates, which also help the HR department to design training and development program. The third benefit, it motivates employees if supported by a good merit-based compensation system. Best performers get better pay and benefit packages. Similarly, those employees that lag behind get feedback accordingly. The fourth benefit, it's a tool of inspiration. Performance reviews act as an inspirational tool for the employees because its process of weighing up the performance level and the recognition system after achieving the goal can boost up the efficiency and productivity level of the employees. The fifth one, selection validation. Performance appraisals help the supervisors to understand the validity and importance of the selection procedure. The supervisors come to know the validity and thereby the strengths and weaknesses of the selection process. Future changes in selection methods can be made using performance reviews. The sixth benefit, improve relationship between management group and employees. After the review, the employees get an opportunity to discuss their concern with supervisors, which is not only helpful for resolving any grievance or dispute, but also improves this rapport between the management group and employees. The seventh benefit, assist to enhance employee performance. The evaluation performance needs supervisors to take note of insufficiencies in employees' performances and must communicate to the respective employees accordingly. The manager or supervisor can give suggestions to overcome these deficits. The eighth benefit, to integrate with strategic vision. One of the important purposes of conducting a performance review is to communicate employee goals, which are a part of the strategic vision of the organization. Performance and transfers. The merit evaluation system helps to recognize talented employees, to groom them as competent, and organization admits hard work and accomplishment of employees by giving promotion, deputation, and transfer. The last benefit, detect valued performers. Evaluation system helps in recognizing potential employees in the organization at the time of taking personnel decisions, like who will be promoted to an influential position or who will be laid off. The employers take the decision on the basis of performance history, skill level, and experience. The review system is also helpful for taking inventory of quality people in the organization. And the HR department takes the decision to recruit new employees or upgrade the existing workforce. Moving on to the next slide, components of performance appraisals. All right, so here are the 4 components of performance appraisals that you can see on your slide. Not 4, sorry, 6. Communication, collaboration, and teamwork. It's a self-explanatory, readable slide. Once the components are clear, the process is quite straightforward. If you refer to the left-hand side of the slide to understand the process, it starts with defining expectations, followed by measuring and evaluation, providing feedback based on statistical information, ending with maintaining the record of performance. This again plugs back objectively in defining future expectation. Moving on to the next slide, how to prepare for a performance appraisal. Many people find the review process stressful, but a great deal of the stress and anxiety around performance reviews can be reduced or eliminated with proper preparation. Here are a few suggestions. Understand the review process. If you have been through the process before, this may be unnecessary. But if you are in a new job or there is a new process in place, contact human resources and find out as much as you can about the review process so you can be properly prepared. Don't forget to find out the review, how the review is related to compensation and promotions. Second, keep a work journal. A work journal doesn't have to be fancy. It can be as simple as running to-do list, where you mark off what you have accomplished and when. This will help you remember your own accomplishments over time, as well as have evidence of those accomplishments. Next point, do your own review. If you're provided with a self-analysis worksheet, fill it out honestly. If not, make a list of your job responsibilities and conduct your own review of yourself. Pay particular attention to making a list of your accomplishments and anticipating any feedback you may receive. Next point, come up with your goals. Managers often ask about your goals for the next year during a performance review. So take some time to think about it and come up with solid goals before you enter the review meeting, so you are not left stammering. Next point, prepare feedback for your boss. Depending on the format of your review, your boss may ask you to rate his or her performance as well. Take some time to formulate any feedback or constructive criticism that you may have. Next way of preparing, drive the discussion. Before you head into your review, make a short list of topics that you would like to cover with your manager. Your annual review is a perfect opportunity to talk about anything that may be on your mind with regard to your career trajectory, team, projects, budget, and so on. Take the opportunity to make the review work for you. The last point, research salary data. Jackie had delivered an amazing webinar on salary negotiations. You can find this on YouTube and also on the Students Hub on the right-hand side. Go through that webinar. If you plan to ask for a raise, take the time to research average salaries for your position, location, and work experience so that you have data to back up your request. Moving on to the next slide. Here are the tips for writing your performance evaluation. All right, so I am just looking at the slide. Yes, here are the. So this slide covers tips for writing performance reviews. The exact structure of your annual performance review will depend on the areas your leaders want to assess. Self-evaluation tips are a useful framework to structure your own self-assessment when it comes time to completing your review. So starting with the first one, assess achievement of objectives. You will likely have set yourself goals to achieve this year in collaboration with your manager. Whether you met your targets or you went off track, this is the time to objectively document the outcomes. Next point, describe your accomplishments. Accomplishments are more general than objectives, and it's an excellent space to demonstrate skills improvements and new challenges you took on. All right. The next one is demonstrate behavior of company core values. Organizations will typically outline 3 to 5 core behaviors that are important to the company culture. Some organizations call it values, and everyone's ways of working are connected to the values or behaviors. When evaluating yourself on these core values, make sure to illustrate how you demonstrate the behaviors in your work and not what is an intrinsic personality trait. For this, you will have to keep a log of incidents so that you can recall what behavior did you actually deliver in those situations. Next one, identify areas for improvement. All of us always have scope of improving, right? So make sure that you make a note of that and bring it up in your review. Being critical of your own performance is difficult, but we all go off track at times. Take responsibilities for areas where you fell short, but focus on the steps you took or can take to correct these in future. The next tip, suggest areas for professional development. Everybody has skills that they can develop further, and organizations often have programs in place to support these. The performance review is a great time to bring up skill gaps that you want to close and to discuss with your manager how to go about that. The next tip, define your job and role. There is no way to evaluate your performance without a clear description of your job. If you already have one, keep it handy while composing your self-evaluation. If you don't know where to find this, or if your job description has changed, now is the time to write one. It does not have to be a massive document. Define the major responsibilities of your job, from the consistent requirements to the long-term projects. It's your job. So even if other colleagues share your title, make sure to review or establish the specifics that make your position yours. Do this even if it is not a requirement for your review. If you don't, the rest of your evaluation will not be persuasive or effective. The last benefit, the last tip, align with your manager. Before beginning your review, ask your manager or whoever is responsible for your review how the self-evaluation will be used. You would not write anything else for work without knowing your target audience, right? This should be no different. Once you know your role and the purpose of your self-evaluation, you will be ready to start writing the performance review in the right state. Now, here is a good article for referencing later to understand the performance review examples. I'm posting the link on the chat right now for all you live participants as a takeaway. Please pick it up from chat and go through it later on. Moving on to the next slide. Sample action verbs. A ready list for you to leverage from. Don't you think it's a great, interesting slide? How simple words can actually make very powerful and impactful story and narrative and statements. I often tell people, we know that we have the skills in our mind, but we sometimes don't get the right words. All these lists of these kind will give you the right words to the thoughts in your mind. Feel free to take a screenshot of this slide as a ready reckoner for yourself. Anyway, this will be uploaded on YouTube as well, so you can pick it up at that time also. Moving on to the next slide, examples of performance review questions. All right, and this is the last agenda item. So, what do we have? Let's see. Key appraisal questions to prepare for. See, it's difficult to know the exact questions you will be asked during your performance appraisal because the questions will depend on the company, your particular job, the industry, whether it's a small business or a large one, the size of the IT department, how long you have been with the company, and so on. That should not prevent you from preparing ahead of time. However, because you can at least review a list of general appraisal questions, start with these list of 6 critical performance appraisal questions to get you thinking about more specific questions you might get asked and how you will answer them. So the first question that you see on the slide, how did you do on the goals set for you during your last performance appraisal? So you might hope that your manager has been paying attention to your efforts throughout the previous year, but that probably hasn't been the case. When 53% of employers admit they don't track improved productivity, the onus is on you as the employee to document your achievements and progress. As you prepare for your performance review, think back to the goals that were set, those you accomplished, and your progress on those you did not. Be ready to explain if there are goals you did not accomplish, but you made good progress on. Also consider the progress made on goals that was set for your team. For those goals that were not reached, were they possibly unrealistic? If so, why? The second question, what was the biggest achievement this year? Now, this is a very interesting question. Your performance appraisal is your opportunity to draw attention to your track record over the past year, both regarding your goals and regarding your achievements. So do not assume your manager will know or remember your accomplishments. Instead, be ready to point them out. Prior to performance appraisal, pull together any documentation you might need to show your recent achievements, include accomplishments related to your specific role within the company, but also any that happened outside of your work. Maybe you joined the board of an industry organization, for example, or contributed a guest post to a blog, or maybe represented your company in a webinar. Perhaps you earned an online certification during the previous year that makes you more knowledgeable at your current job or positions you do to do more. If you don't already do so, get into the habit of documenting your accomplishments, large and small, throughout the year. You will find it's much easier to be ready for your next performance appraisal when you don't have to dig through old files or emails to try and remember just what did you do in the last 12 months. The third question, what are your short and long-term goals with the companies and for your career? Beyond the specific goals you and your manager will lay out for the year ahead, you might also be asked about your own goals. If so, be ready to answer questions like these in a way that demonstrates your desire to learn, to grow, both in your career and also in your company. Consider the new skills you want to learn and why. Do your homework and have a list of technologies or content you want to master through online certifications during the year ahead. Discuss your plan with your manager, emphasizing that you're pursuing this additional certification in part so you can take on new roles and responsibilities at work, add more value to the organization, and help you achieve short and long-term goals. As part of your performance review preparation, make a list of your short and long-term goals. Make use of that time to check in on your career progress. While doing so, include both professional and personal goals, as well as timelines for achieving them. Build your allies and champions through this particular question. Fourth question, what has been your most challenging aspect of your work this past year and why? Now, I'm going to just cover this in the interest of time and then we will move on. So, what has been the most challenging aspect of your work this past year? A question like this can be a nice segue into discussing any courses you would like to take to benefit your career. Perhaps you were challenged by changing dynamics within the technology department that shifted job roles around, and now you are at a disadvantage because you don't know enough about a certain coding language or best practice, meaning now is the time to learn it. Maybe you are challenged by lack of teamwork and communication issues, meaning a team building program might be in order. So use this question as an opportunity to actually spell out what kind of training and development can you seek as a support from your line manager. The fifth question, let me quickly cover it. Which parts of your job do you most or least enjoy? When you're answering a question like this, position yourself in the best possible light. Saying you most enjoy your coffee breaks will fail to impress your manager, while saying you most enjoy the challenge of learning new skills and taking on new duties will make your manager's day. Conversely, if you have concerns about your role or the organization in light of recent or impending changes, or you are struggling to get along with a coworker, be prepared to discuss these types of difficult topics in an objective way, possibly by writing down questions or talking points ahead of time. The last question, in what ways might you contribute more to the company? Very, very important question. It will come to you in some or the other shape or form. If you would like to take on more responsibilities, play a lead role on a team or get a promotion, use a question like this to seek into demonstrating your enthusiasm for doing more. Do your research ahead of time to determine what the needs might be and how they dovetail with your career goals. Is there an opportunity to learn machine learning in advance of changes in your organization? Is your company changing over to cloud computing and somebody needs to master Microsoft Azure? Is cybersecurity a concern and no one has the skill set to tackle the issue heads on? Don't wait for your manager to assume you want to take on or do more. Be open about your willingness to do so and point out that you can master the skills needed and save the organization the time and money required to hire someone new for that role. Even if the questions above are not the exact same questions you will be asked, they hit on the major issues your manager will probably want to address during your performance review. You will be much better prepared for the specific questions that come up if you review and prepare for the general questions above and honestly evaluate your own performance prior to the meeting. Now, here are the key takeaway resource links. It's a page full of resource links, and I am pasting them on the live chat for all the live participants. Please go ahead and take them all. This is one of the perks of attending live webinar. Okay, so feel free to pick them up. These will also be uploaded on the YouTube under the event description. So those who have not been able to attend the live webinar, when they are watching the recording, below the recording is the event description, and in the event description, all of these will be uploaded. I hope all of you have picked up these resources. All of them will give you complete idea, in depth, into whatever we have discussed today. Moving on to the next slide for the credit and the research that I did to land this pack for you guys. So a lot of research, guys, go into preparing for a webinar, and we coaches actually go through so many websites, pick up the key points for you to make sure that we bring in synopsis within this 45 minutes to make the most for you. Now, the next section, Q&A. The most awaited section. The webinar cannot be completed unless we give some time to our students to ask some questions which they may have on their mind. So please feel free to ask away your questions, please. I don't know what I did, but my chat went away. So this always happens with me. I keep pressing some buttons and something else happens. All right. Jackie, you may have to help me today because I think I pressed some button which changed the view.
That's okay. I can't see any questions at the moment in the chat room. So this is your opportunity, all in attendance, to just raise whatever's on your mind in relation to this webinar on your performance review. So any questions?
You can type on chat if you want, or you can even unmute yourself and ask. Please go ahead.
I'm off me day.
Hi, is that Tasaku? Are you typing? Right. Please feel free to type in. Or has Meera done such a fantastic job that nobody has any questions to raise? Oh, okay, great. We have a question has come in from Anne Losh. Apologies if I pronounce your surname incorrectly, Anne. And her question is, how can you approach an employer that is overdue for giving a performance review? Our small company was bought by someone else 2 years ago, and the boss still has not given any reviews. So that's in from Anne.
All right. So Anne, if your company has any target operating model, or if there is a particular operating procedure, or if there is any compliance, if you have access to any such thing, you may first want to go through and see whether they had spelled out that there will be a performance review. If it is mentioned in your appointment letter, there has to be some place where this component has to be explicitly mentioned. If it is available in writing in any document of any kind of which is available to the employees, you could use that as a reference material and raise this with your line manager saying, when I joined the company, in my appointment letter, I did have this one of the clauses, but I haven't experienced it once. And I understand there are many benefits of a performance review. So it will be great if we could have a chat, even if it's informal and not a very formal one, because I would like to grow and develop myself, get your feedback, and also get a broader vision and strategy of the company so that I can contribute more. So in this way, you will be able to kind of push your employer to answer what is the reason that they have not conducted a performance review, if at all that was a part of the appointment altogether and the target operating model of the organization, and what are the challenges that they're having. In the least, at least you will come to know what is the vision, what is the strategy, what are the goals. So it's like half battle won. And that's how you will have to keep persuading your manager. I hope that was helpful. I can see Ibo has asked a question. Is it okay to ask a potential employer what model they use for performance reviews? It's a very interesting question, Ibo. Yes, of course, you can, in a friendly manner over the coffee break, talk to HR department staff rather than asking. If you have a good rapport with your line manager, you can go ahead and ask your line manager too. In fact, you can give a reference so that it doesn't look like condescending. You can just say, I attended a webinar on performance reviews, and it was shared with us that there are multiple ways in which performance reviews are made. It would be interesting to know which one do we use, because when we attend webinars, we will be able to contribute to the statistics on the polls. Always give a good reason for asking a question when you're trying to deep dig into somebody else's functional delivery. So it does not kind of put them into an apprehension, and it actually opens them to help you. So it depends on how you ask the question, but you can definitely ask the question, okay? I see there is one more question. Do we have the access to this PPT presentation deck? It will be only on the YouTube available, but the deck is not available, yeah? I see Saku Nelson has asked a question. Can the performance review also be a part of first-time interview process? The performance, they won't call it performance review, but they will bring in elements of performance review into the interview process. And that is why it becomes a selection validation benefit in the interview procedure. So the questions which will be asked in your interview process, they will be directly related to your performance delivery. You need to be mindful when the question is being asked to you to be able to tag it and categorize it. Is this a performance delivery related question, or is it, a knowledge related question? So yes, a performance related questions can be guised into interview process in a different shape or form. I see NSK has asked a question. Would it be wise to address concerns and reasons related to recent layoffs which happened from the same team during a one-on-one review session with the line manager, how to navigate such a situation? So would it be wise to address concerns and reasons? So are you asking this as a line manager, or are you asking this as one of the team members? Because the answer will depend on that. Okay, so you are a team member and you are saying that if there have been a few team members who have got laid off or furloughed, whether it is a good thing to bring up with the line manager. So honestly, if you ask me, I have always had good alignment with my line managers, with my supervisors. It all boils down to what kind of rapport, alignment, understanding, credibility, goodwill, and tenure that you have spent in the organization. This life is all about what have you contributed before you ask for something in return. So if your alignment and if your credibility and if your goodwill is on that curve, there is absolutely no problem in having a conversation with your line manager, and communicating it in the right manner is the main thing. How you ask the question will decide how open your line manager will be in actually sharing what the challenges were. And you can even say that I would like to really understand, for my own stability, for my own growth, for my own development, what are the things that I should continue doing right so that I am able to make a difference and not form the part of the team where they have got laid off. So it all depends on your alignment and how you ask the question. I hope that was helpful. Yeah. The link of the YouTube will come to you, Tisco, through Udacity. All of you who have registered for the webinar will get an email from Udacity sharing the link of the webinar. So you will get it maybe within a day or two. I'll take one last question in the interest of the time. The question is, a startup that wanted to employ me after a half-year probation period suddenly refused. When I told that I have got a newborn child in spite of the fact that I am a man, how should I answer a similar family-related question on my next job interview? Okay, so these are very challenging times, Victor. And due to pandemic, a lot of things have changed for a lot of organizations. It's not just related to your situation or your case in particular. It's overall the situation and the pandemic which is causing the issue, if I may say. This is a more personal question. I would request you to book a one-on-one coaching session with any one of our coaches, including me or Jackie or anyone you wish to, and we can definitely help you answer this question in more detail. All right, now with that, I think this was lovely. All the audience were amazing. Thank you everyone for joining the webinar and making this webinar so active and engaging. You are a great audience. Thank you for joining. Hope to see you in the next webinar again. Till then, take care, stay safe. Bye-bye.